Thank you very much, Sri Prakash, for fueling us with your thoughts in this reservoir of knowledge sharing, I would like to call it. Well, the telecom industry is evolving since beginning, ladies and gentlemen, from landline calls to mobiles, 2G, 3G, 4G, and now the 5G. Well, the 5G touted as a game changer across the industries, both in the B2B space and also the B2C space. Well, to understand how we can create a 5G balance for human, machine, and data, we now move on to a very riveting, I promise you, fireside chat with the leaders and visionaries of the industry. Well, I welcome Dr. Anand Agarwal, the Group CEO of STL Sterlite Technologies. Well, I would be glad to mention this that he is passionate about driving technological advancement to impact everyday lives. I must tell you all. Well, recognizing the exponential growth in the data consumption and shifts in the global technology landscape, Dr. Agarwal has navigated STL from an optical connectivity company to a global leader in the end to end network solutions. Well, Dr. Agarwal will be joining us. And with that, I would also be elated, ecstatic to be welcoming next Mr. T.V. Ramachandran, the president of Broadband India Forum. Let's all extend a good round of cheer because it is the good vibes that we are celebrating at this forum. Well, I must tell our viewers that T.V. Ramachandran, the founder and CEO advisory at TBR Global Advisor, the Future Tech Panel, IET, Institution of Engineering and Technology, London, would be joining us. Well, TV Ramachandran, also known as TV, as you all know, has played a key role in mobile telecommunications in India from its very advent in the year 1994 that we can think of, right? So as the first CEO of Sterling Cellular Limited, SR Cell Phone earlier, Delhi, he led the establishment and the very successful launch of the largest Indian cellular network at that time, a predecessor of what later actually became Vodafone India. Well, in 1997, he moved to establish and lead the industry body, the Cellular Operators Association of India, that is COAI, for over 12 years. And thereafter served as the resident director, regulatory affairs and government relations, Vodafone India for over 5 years. It will be a pleasure to be joined by TV, as we call him, right? And with that, I must tell you, as a good host should, we also have amongst us Mr. Manoranjan Mohapatra, the Executive Director and CEO from Comviva. Well, Mao's career, well, that's how he's fondly known as, correct? So his career has indeed been dedicated to the development and deployment of innovative software communication solutions in the rapidly growing markets, transformational, and in fact, transformational energies to transform high potential businesses into true world beating organizations. So such are his efforts, really, his track record for enabling innovation, his deep knowledge of telecom related technology, and his huge wealth of experience in a range of operational and marketing roles. I think this provides a very strong leadership base from which to enhance Comviva's positioning as the leading provider of integrated VAS solutions in emerging markets globally. Well, I would also would like to welcome the Cyber Media Group Chairman Pradeep Gupta to join and moderate this session that we're all looking forward to. Well, Mr. Gupta, as we know, is a first generation entrepreneur who set up Cyber Media in 1982, an industry veteran that we are so fond of with over 40 years of experience. PG, as he's called, is highly reputed in the IT industry. I would like to say that he's quite unstoppable. Well, he has mentored over 150 startups and is the co-founder of the Indian Angel Network. He's the chair of the Alumni Trust, the sponsors of Ivy Cap Ventures, Trust Funds. Well, he's also, ladies and gentlemen, please note, also on the board of the IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. Wow. And he's also the recipient of the Distinguished Alumni Award of IIT Delhi and the Helen Keller Award for working in the disability sector. Well, I think his gestures, his demeanor is something that is definitely looked up to. So it's time for me to give the virtual baton to you now, Mr. Gupta. Over to you all.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this fireside chat, part of the plenary session of the Telecom Leadership Forum. My topic is exciting and my speakers are also very exciting. The topic that we are looking at today is creating the 5G balance for human, machine, and data. So, there's been a lot of talk about 5G and its applications and so on, but this balance is something which is interesting and not too many debates have happened on that. So I think this is going to be a very, very interesting fireside chat today. And I've got an absolutely wonderful panel here to discuss with me all these issues. Dr. Anand Agarwal, the CEO of STL, which is looking at the entire sort of network transformation, the digital transformation of various kind of businesses and so on. I have Mr. TV Ramachandran, who is the one of the doyens of the Indian telecom industry, a veteran with very, very huge experience, and currently the president of the Broadband India Forum. I have Mr. Manoranjan Mahapatra, the ED and CEO of Comviva, and with the value-added services that Comviva provides, I think his perspective in this entire thing would be very, very interesting and exciting. So perhaps let me start with Mr. Ramachandran. Let's have we fully exploited the potential of 4G? We are talking about 5G. What do you think are going to be some of the new things that are going to happen with 5G?
Thank you, Pradeep ji. It's wonderful to be with you all. And as usual, you have come out with a very brilliant topic about this balance of humans and machines and data. I think very reflective of your philosophical style. I love about you all through the years. You always bring up and very innovative. Very rightly, 5G does bring a lot of that into play. And as we go along, probably you'll be talking about it. So I think it's very contextual that way. And coming from the Oriental side, we are all very able to relate to that sort of thing. You were questioning about the Gs and how 5G is coming. I've been involved, had the privilege to be involved from 2G, when 2G was being crafted as a GSM standard in 92, 93. I was part of that GSM MOU. So it's great. 2G came on beautifully without any drums, fanfare, no bells and whistles. It quietly became a dominant standard. 3G came with a lot of hype and is disappointed. Again, 4G has come in very quietly. In fact, into India, it came in too quietly and has swept the field. It's broadband has happened. It's beautiful. And like you rightly said, 4G probably will not realize the full potential yet. But the world is already at 5G. And India cannot help it. It has to enter that because we are into digital India, digital transformation. 5G represents probably one of the last frontiers for digital transformation. And so I think it's very ripe. This discussion. Very right that you have posed this question about balancing between humans and data and traffic. You have sort of stirred up all the philosophical instincts in me also, like you have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Agarwal, my question to you, what are going to be some of these new use cases? Perhaps would you just like to look at perhaps 2 or 3 examples, maybe from manufacturing, maybe from healthcare, education, whatever. How exactly is 5G going to be used?
Sure, PG. So first, thanks for having me. And as TV said, it's the right and apt time for having this discussion and debate as to what's the right balance, and do the use cases justify the getting in the technology, and where does the interfacing between humans and machines start becoming from collaborative to maybe moving on to other stage which people are currently discussing, and are to an extent there is a bit of fear also about it. See, 5G essentially is different from 4G to the perspective was 4G was more about connectivity. It was purely about getting internet in the hands of everyone on a mobile device. Well, 5G is connectivity with very high power and ubiquitous and cheap computing available simultaneously. So all the stuff that we talk about, the smartness comes in with 5G. So whether it is, and this is no longer of something that will happen. We are now seeing this happening as it is. So Industry 4.0, so connected automation, connected machines, robotics is currently happening as we speak within factories outside India and some in India as well. Industry 4.0 becomes very, very effective. Connected vehicles, self-driving vehicles and connected vehicles becomes possible only because of this connectivity with compute, which gets enabled with 5G. Now, multiple healthcare applications. So what 5G is bringing in is the fact that you have two-way communication without any latency. And you are combining that with the compute capabilities. So till date in healthcare, it was one-way consultation, but with 5G, you can actually start performing surgeries also remotely. Smart cities, the application which we are seeing in various cities across the globe, face detection for security reasons. Now, all smart homes, multiple applications. All these use cases are now becoming possible because of the fact that you have connectivity and you have great compute on which you can run any of the AI applications with any kind of augmented reality to extended reality sort of scenarios. So these applications are actually, which were thought through, are becoming alive because of the confluence of these two technologies.
No, I like it the way you put two-way communication without latency and great compute power. And I think these are some of the keywords which determine what is happening in 5G. Mr. Mahapatra, you provide so many vast solutions and so on. Is the scenario more of a push or is it a pull? Are users wanting new 5G applications, or are companies like yours thinking of what can be the new solutions that you can provide for the industry?
I think it's a little bit of both, but it is still, I would like to go back first when TV said that 3G came in and was possibly didn't see its potential or light, and then 4G came in quietly. The good thing about 5G, though it's a discontinuity in terms of what it brings on the table, but it is a continuum in terms of, we're talking about 4G systems upgradable to 5G. You can't go from 3G to 4G, but you can go to so from a telecom industry point of view, the investments are not kind of written off after a generation. They'll be continuity of the investments, and that will hopefully give an opportunity for ROI. The way the networks are evolving, more and more what is called a core is becoming compute. And I think it's a question of time, and maybe Anand is a better person to comment on it, but the real differentiation in as the Gs evolve would be all on the radio. Everything else would be, people like us writing software sitting in some corner there, and it'll all go to the aggregated compute. But what does 5G excite me for is, I think what it does is, first, like Anand said, it's near zero latency and very high capacity. In a sense, imagine if we are doing a match, a soccer or a hockey, a high-speed sports being covered with maybe 4 or 6 cameras today. Just imagine the same Stadia having 1,000 cameras and beaming, whatever augmented reality or other stuff, 3D video, 4D video, at very, very high speed. It is only possible in 5G. So it first thing it changes is UX or user experience, and that's users are demanding, as like a Maslow's hierarchy. The more you give, the higher up I want to go. So that's the pull to answer your question. But the one that excites me is what it does to A, enterprises, and B, to the rural India, to the common mass. Most of the business models that I have heard of, and I may be wrong, was focused on the top layers of the pyramid. High ARPU, high data usage subscribers, and that's what everybody went after. I think 5G gives an opportunity for a business person who's running a service, 5G or associated service, to look at the bottom of the pyramid, to go to the villages and look at lower-end farmers and look at agri as a line of business.
Right.
And so that you can put more money in their pocket and maybe take a part of that money as part of your service, but everybody gains in the process. Maybe the middlemen suffer, and in the context of farmers' hesitation, it's all of us relate to it too. Same is true about healthcare. Same is about, so it truly gives an opportunity for technology enabling the lower strata of the society. Absolutely.
As it were, starting from enterprises. Earlier, there was a talk about the home, and you're talking about, the entire social applications and so on. So it will touch each and every human life, as it were. And that is what brings me to the next part of my discussion. And let me start off by first addressing the fear part of it. That, whenever there is this issue about the machine and human interaction, the first and foremost block that we have to overcome is the fear part. The airlines industry has had a lot of automation for a very, very long time. Fly-by-wire aircraft has been around now for 30 years or so. And yet, we have the plane crash taking place where the machine overrides human being, and that brings about the same fear aspect. So let me start with you, Mr. Agarwal. What do you think? Is this fear justified?
I think, we got to be aware of the possibilities that we put into those machines. So as long as that clarity and awareness is there, the example that you gave, Vijay, about the airline industry. So you have to see with the fact that with this kind of automation also came in huge amount of safety, which happened for the air flights. And that's what's going to happen if you kind of extend that same example into, say, a connected vehicle. You have more safety, you have more time, disposable time for people, you have less accidents, you have less amount of fuel consumption. So all great things. Is it possible for somebody potentially to maybe hack into a car? Yes, theoretically possible, but that possibility is there for multiple things. There is a possibility for people to get into a power grid. There is a possibility for people to hack into a financial system. For a connected society, that possibility of somebody hacking in or and kind of misprogramming the way machines are intended to work, possibility is always there. We got to make sure that there are enough checks, balances which are there, so that that interfacing is, for the most parts, controlled by the human beings itself. And if at all there is a 1 in a billion possibility, you kind of keep closing that. But I think the benefits far outweigh the fears which are there. But that's not towards kind of discounting the fears. We got to be aware of them and keep closing those out, but not run away from the fact that with the benefits that the technology is currently offering.
So the benefits are greater than the perils.
Far outweigh that, yeah.
And so, Mr. Ramachandran, Mr. Agarwal brought this interesting point about the human being taking the final decision. So, now you have these two thoughts, one is machines in the loop or humans in the loop. So one is that you just ensure that the machine learns more and more, and AI, and takes more intelligent decisions. The other one where the human in the loop, which sort of somewhere looks at the various data and at critical points is actually taking that decision. What's your view on which way we should be going?
I think this fits in very well with two great points which have been raised already by Anandji and Maho. On the one hand, Anandji brought in this aspect of ubiquity, near zero latency, extremely high speeds as being the feature of 5G. At the same time, Maho rightly pointed out that unlike the earlier disruptions and fears that arose when you moved from 3G to 4G, etc., here you've got something which is a continuum. I like that very much. That's the evolution. It's a continuum from 4G into 5G. And frankly, most people are unaware that if you look at the characteristics of 4G LTE Advanced, LTE-A, it's almost knocking on the doors of 5G in terms of low latency and speeds. So in one sense, it also brings back your question of have we exploited fully the potential of 4G? I don't think so. We have not yet, I think. World is still running with 4G. Many countries are going to have quite a few years. At the same time, 5G is inevitable because it's part of the continuum. So that is a beautiful perspective raised by Maho. And so that inevitability is going to bring in rich rewards in terms of user capability. We are going to give more and more power to the users in terms of what they are going to do, how they are going to use artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is going to become more and more part of the system, whether it is through IoT or artificial, it's going to be all pervasive. Ubiquity, which Anandji spoke of, that's going to help. And yes, it does raise certain types of fears, but easily addressed, which we have to work with. We have to work with them. For example, there could be a person who says that, look, there's going to be such a proliferation of antennas all over us, radiation all over us. So are we going into something unknown? Yes and no. Nobody has got a final answer in all these things, but we are going into a lot of small antennas. They're not going to be obtrusive. It's going to be very low radiation levels. Coverage power is less. So there are lots of pluses to it, lots of benefits coming from it. It's a trade-off between,
right.
That's inevitable, like it happened with the atom bomb.
It is inevitable. Whenever technology is there, there are going to be advantages and disadvantages. But the issue,
we are seeing this, for example, with Arogya Setu itself.
right.
Would you say it is something which is beneficial, or is it an intrusive app? And people will have different perspective. Now imagine with an Arogya Setu, when you are going into areas where there is a high degree of risk, you in real time get perspective that you ought to be away from that. Or so there is a issue of privacy, and there is a issue of the benefits that it provides. And where do you draw the line? It is upon humans to decide where the line gets drawn.
So who decides the line? Mr. Mahapatra, for example, Mr. Agarwal had talked about connected vehicles. Now, the driver may be falling asleep, and therefore it is good if the computer realizes that the driver is not in the best of the things and actually can control the driving. Okay. Versus machine may actually be doing something wrong and maybe malfunctioning, and therefore it should be the human being in control. So, where do we strike this balance?
So, Pradeep, I think, it's my personal perspective, and I strongly believe that it is the user who decides adoption, not the manufacturer or the innovator, the seller. Now, like everything else in life, I think user risk profile is also a bell curve, a normal distribution. There are people who get excited about early adoption, people who wait but are mid-adoption, and people in certain areas are the laggards who do. Like, I'll give you my personal view. I was a very late adopter to a touchscreen phone because I just thought that I can't imagine how could somebody move away from the keyboard or a QWERTY? And I laugh at it myself today. Same is true about I'm a late adopter when it comes to net banking. I was still comfortable with checkbooks for a long time. And as the threshold, it's again a continuum, like I said, as the thresholds move up, the safety standards evolve. People who are late adopters will continue to get adopted. I mean, look at your cars. Accident rates in cars used to be high in early stages of car evolution. Then the safety standards, the airbags, single airbag for the driver, 2 airbags for the front riders, then the side airbags. As they evolved, the speed at which the cars can move from a regulation point of view on the highways moved up. So I will surely, when there is a driverless car that gets, or taxis that get launched on the streets, I expect certain people to be shy of adoption in the beginning. Some people will take the risk, but as the things move up, standards, norms, safety parameters, people will get comfortable and keep adopting, and it will keep moving. So it is, to me, it is a very natural course of evolution with respect to IoT or machines and the help of 5G into that. But adoption curve will depend on the comfort that we are able to collectively give the technology, the market, everything else to the user, that the user will decide its adoption in a faster or a slower pace.
So you are saying that, it is inevitable that we will move in that direction. And yes, there will be some challenges. We will learn from that, but we will move ultimately in that
absolutely
direction. Dr. Agarwal, you raised a very good point about when you talked about Arogya Setu, you took the issue about privacy. Now, moment you start talking about, the new technology, the intrusion part of it, the privacy part of it becomes very, very high. You also earlier talked about, financial industry being completely dependent upon these technologies. So how do we address this privacy issue, which for humans is a very significant issue, with more and more intrusion taking place in our lives?
Absolutely, and that's where I agree with what Mao said, that the privacy issue starts becoming more and more our own decisions as to the more is our desire and degree of being connected, the more power we are giving towards or reducing our privacy. And that's where a degree of various aspects of regulation starts coming through. So one is a personal self-regulation. Second is a regulation which is being inducted by the companies who are themselves involved in the business. And the third then starts becoming state-sponsored regulation as to where does this line starts getting drawn? I mean, today, for example, it's very clear that any of these services or applications which are becoming free, each of us is contributing to the growth by providing by kind of sacrificing our privacy and paying that through the. Now it is our choice whether I want to be on those social platforms or not. So those choices each individual will take. The companies who are in this business will start taking some of the choices.
Your personal choice, because today with so many cameras all over the city, smart cities, and so on, is it a human choice?
Yeah, so there would be aspects where you will not be, and that's where the higher benefit versus the aspect of losing privacy would be there. I mean, I would be okay, for example, if I'm going through an airport and I get detected with a face detection camera, and that is increasing the security multifold in real time. But I would not want that same camera to be sort of monitoring my every move throughout the city. So those lines between what we do and where regulation starts coming in, and that's where when Arogya Setu came in, that those were the kind of arguments which came in, that the lines of privacy will be partly self. See, today I have the capability to decide whether I'm on Facebook or not. Those are the choices I can take, and whether I'm putting in pictures, whether I'm creating my network there and putting it out for the world to see. Those are the choices I can take. But you're absolutely right. As I step out, there would be areas where I don't have choices, and then I would decide based essentially on what is the greater benefit that connectivity or whatever that technology is providing. And if I'm uncomfortable with that, I kind of push the on the regulation side towards that change to happen.
Sure. So, what is BIF's view on the regulatory aspects? What have been some of the things that you've been taking up with the government? So Mr. Ramachandran would be glad to have your views.
See, from the point of view of BIF, the topmost need is today rational spectrum pricing. I think no G is going to work, whether it is 5G or 6G, if the spectrum is not priced right. And that's the biggest burden on the sector today. So something which started well in 2010 as e-auction, and we are all for auction. We completely endorse auction. That's the best way. Nothing wrong with the basic design of the auction we have.
But the current auctions have gone on well, right?
Beg your pardon?
The current auctions have gone on well.
Yeah, they've gone well. Auctions have gone well in the sense they have. It depends on what's your perspective. See,
and the pricing also has been right in the current auctions. That's
no market discovery. Since 2010 till now, we have done enough research on it. There's been no market discovery of the value of spectrum, and the loser is the end user. It's all allocated price. 60% of the spectrum has got unallotted, so it's been idling. And consumers have lost, by my back of the envelope calculations, several lakhs of crores the country has lost because of unused spectrum. Spectrum is useful only when it is put to use. So that is the topmost priority. And technology-wise, that is one. Second part is we don't have enough capacity, bandwidth capacity in backhaul or backbone. We need more of fiber-like capacity on the ground. India is most abysmally low compared to other countries, other regimes, comparable regimes. We have to compare only with comparable regimes, which are US and China. So India is deficient in fiber, it's deficient, grossly deficient, probably more deficient in Wi-Fi than in fiber. Without Wi-Fi, you can't have download capacity. So broadband, 5G, all of these are demanding that we address some of these fundamental regulatory spectrum pricing for licensed spectrum, more of unlicensed or license exempt spectrum, more fiber in the ground, and more Wi-Fi. These are the 4 top priorities in my
You are
opinion.
essentially saying that enable 5G to happen, and but Mr. Mahapatra, so there is this legal issue about liabilities and so on, human versus machine, right? And that is where, so privacy is one aspect, and the other one is that who is liable? Is it the manufacturer who is liable? Is it the human who is using it liable? Is the software liable? Is the sensor company liable? What's your view on that?
Pradeep, I think, as I said before, it is evolving. It is not matured yet. Like Anand was saying, let's look at privacy and security. It is true, like Anand said, that I have a choice to go to Facebook or to Twitter or to Instagram or not. But to be honest with you, whenever I go to a Facebook, do I know what am I exposing? What am I hiding? Sometimes I have that feeling of discomfort that there may be things that I don't know that are being captured about me and being put to public domain. But it will all evolve. It's unfortunately, it's a lag indicator, not a lead indicator. As more people use, more people question, it'll get plugged. Same is true about on the legality. This is extremely early stage to say that, my half the family is in insurance industry, and they're all debating at this point of time that once auto-driven cars or driverless cars come in on roads, what happens to insurance? Do you have to buy an insurance at all, and buy it for what? Whose? So maybe just a third party. Right. And so question is, I think this is a question about legality, accountability is still very fluidy, and it is not very clear at this point in time who would be accountable. And there are, like you said rightfully, the device manufacturer, the service provider, and the user are the 3 elements in the game. And it will get sorted out. I mean, I can give my personal views, but I think it will, end of the day, I strongly believe that the guy who is providing the service has to provide safety and security for the service. Okay. He can't blame it on the machine.
Right. So that's very interesting. And gentlemen, that sort of brings me to the end of this very, very interesting and engaging discussion that we've had. But before I finish, I would request each of you to, in one sentence, talk about where do you think for 5G the balance is going to be in terms of the human, machine, and data. Starting with you, Mr. Mahapat.
So it'll start with more control with the humans. So it'll be more, the balance would be tilted in favor of humans. But with every passing day, it'll shift towards machines as we become comfortable. I call it raising of the threshold or raising of the bar.
Okay. Mr. Ramachandra?
I think this is going to be a step towards what is actually going to happen even in 6G maybe. But 5G is going to be the start of that, where you're going to get a sense of a 6th sense developing between machines and men and data because of zero latency and extremely high speed. You just imagine mind-boggling speeds coupled with near zero latency gives you a sort of a 6th sense perception, which can be pretty dangerous if misused.
I like that the 5G has brought about the 5 senses and 6G will bring the 6th sense.
That's why I said right at the beginning, Pradeep, without, doubt, from your philosophical bent of nature, I know, you have put your finger on subject, which is very, very important, which is going to be vitally debated in the time to come on how all this is going to play out in morality, ethics, etc. And a lot will be learning from the Oriental societies, whether it is Japan, whether it is Korea, India. I think we all have a lot from.
Dr. Agarwal, your take on the balance. Where does the balance lie?
Clearly, the balance will be in terms of how we control the technology. So the technology is being is making us much more capable as a species, much more productive, and is providing potentially taking away a lot of inefficiencies that are in the entire value chain and supply chain. How we use that time, how we use things effectively will start, the questions would start coming into, there are other debates on the future of labor, of singularity. All these are things which will get debated over a period of time. But I fully agree that it will depend on how human beings as a species is able to control this technology, which is coming, and it's been coming for the last every time technology comes through, that similar debate is there. Now this debate is getting more and more relevant because there is the concepts of singularity, etc., which is also coming through. But I think we as species have always found unique ways to leverage technology, and we'll do the same here as well.
So thank you very much, gentlemen. Just to sort of sum up, I think you wanted to say something, Mr. Raman.
I said, from what Badriji is saying, I tend to believe that the physics of electronic communications is beginning to merge with the metaphysical world.
Yes, yes, I remember reading the book, The Tao of Physics, that ultimately, you know, so I think, thanks for the panel for saying that it is inevitable. And 5G is going to get used in multiple areas, right, from individuals to companies and governments and so on. Different areas will get impacted by 5G. And whether it is liability, whether it is privacy, whether it is fear, all of these things will evolve as we learn along, and ultimately we will try. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Very, very interesting fireside chat. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramachandran. Thanks, Anand. Thank you, Pradeep.
Have a nice day, all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.